On the anniversary of the COVID crisis emergence in Miami Beach, it is a good time to reflect on our experience, a journey riddled with tragedy and triumph. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs has said that the Hebrew word for crisis is mashper, which is the same word used for childbirth. This is because crisis is painful, but can often lead to opportunity, an opportunity to rise above your personal fears and sacrifice for someone other than yourself. Doctors like me, nurses, and ancillary staff have always tried to help others in need, but this was different because the very disease threatened us equally and simultaneously. The fear of the unknown was almost paralyzing at first. Instead of folding in fear, the mayor, commission, and city leaders, emergency medical services, emergency room docs, and nurses prepared very efficiently and geared up for the first wave. Our infectious disease doctors then paved the way for how our staff would approach each of the sickest patients with unusual warmth and caring. To witness how nurses selflessly help prone patients, flipping them upside down, sometimes with endotracheal tubes, to preserve precious oxygen levels, was for me the epitome of what medicine is meant to be. Our Mount Sinai team was a microcosm of what all good community and teaching hospitals did. When families were not able to visit their loved ones, we became their family. This forged a new family called Miami Beach. Government, hospital workers, patients, nurses, doctors, all as one big family. It is a privilege for me personally to be a part of a great hospital system and team that was able to continuously provide care for the sickest during this period of the unknown and to positively impact our great city. Now I introduce our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. I'm Dan Gelber, and it's my privilege to be the mayor of the only hometown I've ever known. Thank you to Dr. Cement and all of our heroes at Mount Sinai. And thanks to the New World, one of our great cultural anchors, for hosting us this morning. It would be a colossal understatement to observe that since my last State of the City, lots has happened. But a wise judge once said to me, "It's not what happens to you, it's what you do next that counts." Or as Dwayne Wade paraphrased, "Fall down 7, get up 8." So today, well, I want to speak to you about what's happened. I really want to talk to you about what's next, about how we're getting up. Over the last year, the world, our nation, our community has been tested in unfathomable ways. We've been forced to deal with a deadly virus that by its nature forces us to navigate lives and livelihoods. Now, while it would be nice to say that these two goals were compatible, the truth is they are not always, especially for us. You see, our economy is so much tethered to hospitality, an industry almost entirely premised on gathering. We're just not a community built for social distancing. That is why it was so hard for us. But we didn't avoid the hard decisions or the required sacrifices. Our city led. Our approach was science and medicine-based. We relied on experts, local and national, to inform our decision-making, and we tried and will continue to constantly give you the facts so you are forewarned and therefore prepared. We were the first city in Florida and the nation to adopt mask mandates after the CDC's recommendation. We reprogrammed city staff to become a resource center. Under the direction of Eric Carpenter, his team had 12,000 interactions to help people, our residents or businesses in our community, access federal and state programs. We asked the Rockefeller Foundation to fund a contact tracing program for only our hospitality industry to help them provide a safer experience for guests and employees. And we also almost immediately started assisting our restaurants with outdoor dining expansions, closing streets, filling parklets, giving our restaurant industry the best chance to get through this. We were also the first city and one of the only ones in Florida to actually deliver the vaccine to our residents. When I challenged our administration under the direction of Assistant City Manager Alina Hudak and Fire Chief Virgil Fernandez to put a program together, they didn't flinch. They leaned into it by training our fire personnel and preparing for cold storage of the vaccine. Our city staff have provided transportation for shots or themselves delivered shots to thousands of residents, including those living in congregate living facilities or those who are homebound and unable to get to a vaccination center, or those staff at our public and private schools. Now, the vaccine rollout on the federal and state level has had many issues, but in our city, we did everything we could, and we did it well. I am proud to report that as of this morning, we have vaccinated over 80% of the seniors in our city. Thousands are out of harm's way. I want to especially thank our unbelievably awesome fire rescue personnel. One 92-year-old resident called me to thank us for sending her, quote, a young, hot fireman to deliver the vaccine. Also thanks to our private sector, especially those hotels, restaurants, and businesses who realized how important it was to protect their employees and patrons. And a special thanks to the Miami Beach Chamber of Commerce, Jerry Libin and Robin Jacobs, who were wonderful partners in every way and will continue to help us as we work with our business community to quickly regain our economic footing. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the efforts to feed those whose livelihoods were displaced by this pandemic. As of today, after 1 year, our city has sponsored over 260 distributions, donating over $6.6 million worth of food and serving 133,000 households. More than 1,000 of our neighbors volunteered to help in these distributions. And no city, and certainly no city our size, did so much for those in need of so much. Thank you, Commissioner David Richardson, and your aide, Luis Callejas, for your leadership in spearheading this massive effort. And to our city departments who provided all the logistical support, thank you all. Now, speaking of city departments, I'd like to thank John Woodruff, our CFO, and his staff. Many cities and governments felt enormous economic repercussions, including massive layoffs and cuts to services. Could have easily happened to us, given our reliance on resort tax money. But with only minor adjustments, we were able to get through this year financially sound without raising taxes. In fact, our reserves are still very high, and recently I can proudly report our bond rating retained its AA+ status. Also, the American Rescue Plan recently passed by the Congress should provide us with sufficient funds to get through the next year, which could frankly have been a challenge. So thank you, John, and thank you to the chair of our Finance Committee, Commissioner Ricky Arriola. Finally, we must thank the heroes of this pandemic. Now, for most of us, the pandemic was felt in the sacrifices, big and small, we had to make to try to control the spread of the virus. But for those working in hospitals, it was much, much more than that. I spoke sometimes daily with Steve Sonnenreich at Mount Sinai and many of his staff who worked enormous hours, putting themselves and their families in actual peril, confronting the kinds of scenarios that are not anticipated, not even in a hospital. So, to the doctors, to the nurses, to the hospital staff, we thank you, and we will never forget your heroism and your selflessness. So, we have responded, and we will continue to respond to the worst nature can throw at us with the best in our nature. Yes, we were certainly knocked down, but we are getting up. The same toughness and ingenuity and community spirit that has helped us get through this crisis is what will help us emerge from it. If you want to know the state of our city, how we are doing, it has never been more apparent. The state of our city, the state of our community is stronger, tested, and more resilient than ever. So what's next? beautiful outdoor spaces and inviting cultural amenities are only accessible if a community is safe. Over the last few years, our crime rate has actually decreased, but some people don't feel safe, and some places, namely in certain areas of South Beach, are not safe at times. This is a fact we must acknowledge because that is the only way to properly address it. As has been painfully obvious these past few weeks, this has only been exacerbated due to the pandemic when few other places have been open and plane fare and lodging is so cheap. So let me begin with thanking our cops. You know, I call every officer who's injured to thank them on behalf of our residents. Each one responds precisely the same way. They say, "It's what I signed up for." Well, we want to thank you for your service. Now, so you know, in our city, the great majority of crime people generally worry about and hear about are committed by visitors upon visitors. In other words, most victims are tourists and most perpetrators are here to exploit them. That is why, as the heat map shows, so many calls for service and so many crime reports come from areas where tourists tend to flock. Our city of 92,000 sometimes attracts over 200,000 visitors and workers in a single day. So we are essentially policing a playground used by other people. Frankly, we are policing an economic engine for the entire region. And it certainly isn't fair that we alone have to shoulder this burden. Now, I, along with my colleagues, have put forth various initiatives and proposals intended to address the multifaceted nature of this challenge in the immediate future and for the longer term. In the short term, we are committing to a substantial increase in officer presence from our own department in South Beach. Since I've been mayor, we have significantly increased our police force, but I'm convinced we need more patrol officers, especially since we don't want to solve South Beach's challenges at the expense of other neighborhoods or neglect adjacent residential neighborhoods. That is why we need to approve an increase in the number of police. We must also accelerate delivery of cameras to all our commercial districts and the Beach Walk, and approve a fully staffed, real-time crime center. I'm also happy to report that I've asked the County Mayor, Daniela Levine-Cava, to provide additional county officers, since this area really is an economic resource for the entire county. And of course, she's agreed. We have increased and will continue to increase the police presence in the neighborhoods and commercial corridors as well. We have augmented our park and walks throughout the city and also organized our city into sections so that residents and businesses know their police and the police are more familiar with their neighborhood. Thank you to Chief Clements and his staff for promoting community policing throughout our entire city. And a special thanks to our interim city manager, Raul Aguila, for stepping in and leading at such an important time with a no-nonsense approach. Still, this doesn't address the problem in the longer term. I have said this since I was first elected, and it remains true today. The entertainment district is simply not working for us as it has become an anything-goes place. In my judgment, whatever the financial gain may be, it's not worth the disorder it creates. The juice just isn't worth the squeeze. We need to end it and replace it with a true Art Deco cultural district. The entertainment district must go. Over the last 18 months, we have considered and implemented many ideas. Many have been vetted by our Art Deco Cultural District Committee. Some are sticks, such as new codes of conduct, eliminating noise exemptions, and heightened code enforcement, while others are carrots, like development incentives to allow for upgraded hotels or better quality office space. We are trying to attract galleries and more diverse businesses. We will also be designing the pedestrianization of Ocean Drive so that it becomes an even more iconic promenade. There are dozens of ideas that need to be considered and implemented. And I put everything on the table, including an earlier last call and an end to exceptions to our noise ordinance. Nothing should be off the table. We don't need what we have right now. Some places might because they have nothing else, but we have so much: beaches, culture, architecture, beautiful weather. I am convinced that right-thinking businesses will flourish even more so just without the headaches. I urge my colleagues to be bold and resist the impulse to make only incremental changes. The time for baby steps is long past. It's time to demand change and commit to truly reimagining South Beach as the cultural and historic district it needs to be. So let's begin with a simple observation. The pandemic pushed many of us outside more than we might otherwise have been, using our parks, our promenades, our walking paths. It made pretty obvious to everyone that one of the best things about having your home here is actually being outside of your home. So if it's not clear, you should know that we are in the midst of an unparalleled and very exciting renaissance of our outside spaces. Now, through the GEO bond, which you overwhelmingly approved, we are upgrading or fully redoing every single park space in the city. Better fields and courts, upgraded facilities. No corner of our city is being ignored. And while we are upgrading our existing parks, we are also creating 30 acres of new parks through the GEO bond and through innovative development deals. There will be a new 3-acre park on 6th and Alton, and it will be done this summer, both at no cost to the city by a private developer. And we are breaking ground this year on a new 19-acre park, Bayshore Park, in Mid-Beach at the old Par 3 site. Later this year, we will start on an entirely reimagined Maurice Gibb Park in Sunset Harbor, and our sprawling 28-acre Oceanside Park in North Beach will also begin soon, just a few blocks from a newly minted 3-acre Altos Del Mar Park, which features a specially designed children's park area. We will continue to convert barren spaces into green space. We took the parking lot next to the convention center and converted it into our new Pride Park. And Tranche 2 of the GEO bond provides for a conversion of the 72nd Street parking lot into a state-of-the-art community amenity, featuring a much-needed Olympic-sized pool, amazing park space, and fitness and community spaces. And of course, I'm happy and excited to report that the Beach Walk will be fully completed from 1st Street to 79th Street this summer, and we will begin the final portion north of 79th Street later this year. Imagine being able to go the entire length of our city without ever leaving the ocean's edge. So every time we open up a park or a green space, it becomes a place of connections and moments, a place to walk or play, to work out, to watch your kids, to read a book, to meet your neighbors, to play with your puppy. That's mine, by the way. I share our wonderful park director, John Raybar, and his staff's commitment to making our parks the finest anywhere. I believe they define our community as much as anything we do. But outside spaces are not just about parks. They're about walkability and mobility. Last year, we completed a pedestrian bridge connecting the Sunset Harbor and West Avenue neighborhoods, and next year, we will begin the iconic pedestrian overpass on the 5th Street Bridge, which will allow for pedestrians on the Baywalk to get over 5th Street without even having to negotiate traffic. The goal here is to create, much like the Beach Walk, a Baywalk that allows for uninterrupted passage on our bayside from Lincoln Road all the way down to 1st Street. Now, we are also in the process of upgrading over 40% of our sidewalks and simultaneously delivering more than 5,000 trees throughout the city. And at the same time, we are trying very hard to make our streets not simply more walkable, but more bikeable. You probably have noticed protected bike paths cropping up throughout the city bike repair centers, and we have been experimenting with slow streets initiatives in the Flamingo Park area. Now, another lesson from the pandemic has been the outdoor dining we helped facilitate. I think we should promote that as much as we can, even when the need for social distancing is well behind us. Our 41st Street Committee has already approved a design that will help that boulevard to reach its potential. The design will allow for expanded sidewalks for business activations, along with beautification to help make it more of a town center for Mid-Beach. Thank you to Commissioner Minor and the entire 41st Street Resident Committee for all their hard work. And this upgrading of outdoor spaces will also be seen on our most famous outdoor shopping promenade, Lincoln Road. The city and the Lincoln Road bid have settled on a $55 million refresh of this amazing destination, which will begin this year. It will include more pedestrian elements and also areas for cultural activations. It also includes work on cross streets, pedestrianizing Drexel and reimagining Meridian. It's exciting and it's visionary, and it reflects the imagination of business leaders like Lyle Stern. Now, in North Beach, we're about to finish work on the iconic fountain, which will soon be reopened as a community space filled with fairs, dances, and gatherings. Thank you to all the local residents, like David Sexton, for guiding this project along. But one final outdoor space that sits vacant still, the west lots in North Beach, we need to address. The city owns 8 barren blocks directly across from Oceanside Park. Right now, they serve very little purpose and are, in fact, I think, a drag on the area. This upcoming year, I believe we need to finally decide on a template for their activation. There is no reason why they can't be developed as a mixed-use project that suitably activates the area, perhaps including workforce housing and public amenities. We will engage a world-class urban planner as well as the community to help us come up with a plan that programs that area in a way that makes sense for the neighborhood. Now, the other explosion we are experiencing is in the arts. Over the last few decades, and most recently, we have, I think, really discovered that the best version of our community is a world-class art and culture destination. Few places in the world can boast a homegrown assemblage of museums, of performing and visual arts venues, and events like Art Basel and cultural festivals. Even during the pandemic, we were able to safely display our cultural heft in ways that attracted national attention. This is mission critical to our future. They are great for tourism, and they give our residents something special to see every day. It's pretty clear that we are no longer aspiring to be that kind of city. We have arrived. But we cannot rest on our laurels, which is why I believe we need to continue to move in bold ways. The Commission is negotiating with Miami New Drama to build out a new performance space in what will be known as the Collins Park Cultural Center. Miami New Drama has proven itself worthy of being a cultural anchor of our city, and this project will activate that area as well as provide office space for other arts organizations. Now, across the street, we are about to break ground on an exciting public-private project, Artists Workforce Housing. A barren lot will be converted to a residence hall for ballet dancers, which is critical when competing for world-class talent. The remaining space will be housing for artists and public servants like school teachers. The ground floor will be art studios, galleries, or similar activations. This upcoming year, we will also complete the development of the Rotunda, that round building in the middle of Collins Park that has been empty for decades. It will be a programmable and historic art space for performances and exhibits. These projects fully cement Collins Park as a prime cultural district. And a very special thanks to its mayor, Ray Breslin, and the local neighborhood association for their efforts to see this through. But in North Beach, we must also provide more cultural fare. Upgrading the band shell will help, but we must also address the long dilapidated Byron Carlisle. We need a theater that could provide a home for top-notch arts organizations like O Cinema and the Miami Light Project. We have to make it easy for these kinds of companies to make our city their home. Imagine every evening not looking for something to do, but having to struggle to choose between too many exceptional options. This Wednesday, we'll ask the manager to begin that process. We also need to help our existing venues to expand. Now, voters approved the expansion of the Wolfsonian in South Beach, which we hope will move towards a reality in the next year. But I also believe and want to put on the ballot an item that will allow the Holocaust Museum to expand its footprint so that it can provide more exhibits and education, especially to younger people. So expect more. By commission ordinance, 2% of all public construction expenditures now goes to public art, the highest percent for any public art purchasing program in the nation. And we just programmed $7 million worth of art throughout the city, and much, much more is to come. Our cultural amenities have also had unexpected bonuses. Our unique STEAM Plus program provides a mechanism for our arts institutions to teach STEM curriculum in our public school system. In our second year, we have ballet instructors teaching geometry through movement, Bass Museum instructors teaching science gene strands. The New World and the Wolfsonian are providing similar enhancements. Even though it was mostly online this year, the program has impacted nearly 3,000 children with 600 instructional hours and currently includes more than a dozen world-class arts institutions, making our feeder pattern unique in the nation. I want to thank all our commissioners and Superintendent Carvalho for all their unwavering support of this initiative. Look, we can't afford to slow down this cultural explosion. It's who we need to be. Now, our city is a barrier island built on porous limestone. So we don't have the luxury of just talking about sea level rise. We must act. When I became mayor, I wanted to make sure our program of raising streets and setting up pumps was the right path. So we asked the Rockefeller Foundation to fund an Urban Land Institute study and used Harvard and Columbia universities to also pressure test our program to make sure it is informed with the best expertise available. They advised us that our path is the right one, though we were also advised we need to do a better job of public engagement and be more attentive to the aesthetics of our projects. It's important for you to know that our engineering solutions are working. In places where we have completed work, it's very clear that flooding is substantially diminished. So it's time to get back to work on this. We have a program. It has been fully vetted and pressure tested. Now, I don't know if there was a pause, but if there was one, we need to push the play button and get this program going full steam ahead. We are also leading as a good steward of our environment. We have continued to restore our beaches from erosion, and our plastic-free program and ordinances have been embraced by our residents and businesses. Our recently passed fertilizer ordinance sets the bar for the entire state. Thank you to Commissioners Steinberg and Gongora for their efforts. More than most cities, we have a responsibility to worry about CO2 emissions. That is why, while we have made great strides in converting our fleet to hybrid, I think we must set a goal of 100% hybrid or electric by 2025, with the ambitious but reachable goal of being 100% fully electric within 7 years. We also need to have the goal of increasing our electric charging stations substantially in the next 2 years. Our city, more than most, understands the implications of not curbing CO2 emissions, so we need to lead. Truth is, we're just not any city. We're a brand known the world over. When we do something well, it is often repeated elsewhere, and when we stumble, it is usually big news. So we have to be better and hold ourselves up to the highest standards of governance. I am very proud this year that we fully implemented our newest charter office, our Inspector General. No other city in the region has done this, and the office has already made an impact, reporting on inefficiencies and urging best practices. Few cities would invite that kind of scrutiny. We embrace it. We learn from it. So thanks to our Inspector General, Joe Centurino, and to Commissioner Samuelin for their work on these governance issues. We also continue to lead in the area of human rights. Our rainbow flag and Pride Park, well, they are symbols. More importantly, we have acted. We have enacted the most progressive anti-discrimination ordinances in the country and been unafraid to lead in various lawsuits that seek to vindicate the rights of all people to be free of discrimination. Our human rights score is always well over 100%. And this year, the commission established a Black Affairs Committee. This was something that was long overdue. So yes, it has been a very trying year. There's no ignoring that fact. But we are going to emerge, not just compromising for a new normal, or even settling for the old normal. No, we're going for a better normal. We have learned from this awful ordeal about ourselves, about our community, and we're not the only ones. People and businesses are coming here in droves, seeking to relocate from other places. They are presenting us new opportunities to diversify our economy. As a city, we should greet them with a simple question: how can we help? Businesses like Starwood Financial, which is completing their new headquarters, or premier hotels like the Aman and the Bulgari, restaurants like Carbone, and so many folks who realized that if they were going to telework, they'd rather do it in our community. They are all coming here, and I understand why. Miami Beach is the ultimate live, work, play community. We don't check boxes in our city. We create the boxes that other cities seek to check. It's because I think people seem able to find their paradise here. Maybe yours is a dog park or a Pilates studio. Perhaps it's strolling on the beach walk or running on the Venetian Causeway. Maybe it's watching a movie in Soundscape Park or enjoying a concert in the North Beach Band Shell. But we have it all. That's why this is a special place. When I return from a trip, I always feel renewed when I see the Miami Beach sign emerging over the horizon on the causeway. That feeling, that sense of place, that's what we're going for. And I've said it before, every year, millions of people spend months or longer saving up so they can visit our city for only a few days, so they can come here and create special, unforgettable moments. So smile. We get to wake up in Miami Beach every day. Thanks for the honor of being mayor of the only city I've ever called home. God bless you and our wonderful city. Thank you.